Hi everyone, welcome to Adventures with Raven and Rowley. I'm Raven and this is Rowley. Last week we talked about our first solo boondocking adventure and the 18-hour drive that went with it. This week I will be talking about the heat, some ways I've used to get uh, that you could use to get you and your pet cool and stay cool without electricity and without ice. If you're curious, please join us on this journey and continue to watch. My goals this week and the past week were to work on the cargo trailer. I was going to separate the tools and everything from the RV bays and the trailer because I got stuff in the RV bay and I've got tools in the under the sink. I've got tools in the cargo trailer. Um, I wanted to get all of the electrical cables together because I've got cables for everything, as you probably do too. And some of them I've labeled and some of them I didn't. And some things are missing cables and I'm sure they're here somewhere, but I want to get them together. Everything else, I got to separate, just throw away, that kind of a thing. But it's been too hot, really too hot. Um, it's been way too hot. It was 101 degrees, that's 38.3 Celsius at midnight last night. And it is supposed to go up to 115 degrees today. That's 46.1 Celsius. And it hasn't quite gotten there yet, but I could look forward to it. It's been kind of usual, I hadn't thought much about the heat. Except when I make these videos, I have to turn off the air conditioner. It gets hot in here, but it's not unbearable. It's okay, I hadn't thought much about the heat since I'm in air conditioning. I do have problems regulating my body temperature, but that's kind of usual. I mean, at my age, stuff doesn't work right. Or maybe it's because I've been spayed, and my hormones are not there or whatever. Anyway, I have trouble regulating my body temperature. Sometimes it's too hot, sometimes it's too cold, and then one could be 2 minutes after the other, you know what I mean? Anyway, I wasn't concerned about the heat because, as I said, I've got air conditioning. And then the electricity went out. It was 109 degrees outside. That's 42.8 Celsius. At the time that it went out. And it went out for 3 hours and it got hotter as the day went on. Now, I'm living in an insulated aluminum can, and thank goodness it's an old insulated aluminum can, because the RVs they're making these days are not as well insulated as those that used to be made 20 years ago, which this RV is older than. So I pulled out. I said, it'll come back on. I mean, after all, this is a park. It'll come back on. It's never been off for more than, half an hour before. I never even considered it, But after a while, it got to be really hot in here. So I pulled out the battery-operated fan, and I plugged another fan into the Jackery, and we were kind of sort of okay for the first hour or so. Meanwhile, I started looking online because I figured it's a good question, Do they make small air conditioners, that kind of thing, suitable for tents and cargo trailers, for instance, which I'm thinking about converting, right? I'm converting. Some of them were unbelievably expensive. I mean, $900 for a portable air conditioner. Others were modified window air conditioners that people put into their cargo trailers or whatever. or they used an RV air conditioner that you see on the top of the roof, but they add a lot of height. Well, the thing about all of those air conditioners is that they require a large amount of electricity. So I said, well, I don't have a 1,000 watt or 2,000 watt Jackery, and it's not likely that I'm going to get one anytime soon. And what am I going to do right now, right? Right this minute. When I looked up air conditioners, swamp coolers came up. They work really only very well in hot, dry climates, which is where southern Nevada is at. It's a hot, dry climate. I'm in between the Mojave and Death Valley. So it gets hot here. Not quite as hot as Vegas, which you would think, since I'm closer to the desert, then, well, we're all in the desert. Never mind. Anyway, I've created a swamp cooler in the house, and I've been using it for a long time to humidify the bedroom. I didn't realize I had made a swamp cooler until I looked at the price of swamp coolers and some of the DIY community swamp coolers. What I had was a bowl of water with a rumpled face cloth set in front of the fan. Basically, that's all the swamp cooler is. You could spend anywhere from $25 to $80 for a swamp cooler but basically it's a fan with a bowl of water in it that you could put some ice in it and something to help diffuse the water, like a washcloth or a screen of some kind. So anyway, what I had dry sinuses, so I had been using that method for months. Anyway, it was always face away from me because I didn't want the cold air blowing on me, but I did need the humidity in the air. This time I placed the contraption in front of the fan, the same contraption. I put the same thing. I put a bowl of water with a washcloth in it, except this time I took the edges of the washcloth and stuck it between the spines of the face of the fan to hold it in place so that the air was kind of blowing through the face cloth. It felt cooler. It definitely felt cooler, and it made the space bearable until the electricity went back on. You might give it a try. I mean, it's good for a personal space. I wouldn't think that it could, do a whole house or anything like that. But anyway, it would cool you off. But suppose you don't have any electricity. I mean, suppose the electricity went out altogether. In this case, the electricity went out altogether. You should close all the windows, except 2 or maybe 1. I'll tell you why in a minute. So if you're starting early in the day, late in the day, you close all the windows to keep the whatever cool air is in the house in. If it's morning, you should probably open the windows to get some cooler air into the place. And then in the afternoon, shut the windows down. Cover all the windows with something to block the sun, specifically on the south side. If you don't have any Reflectix, that's that bubble wrap with the aluminum foil on both sides. You might try one of the car window shields. I seem to have about 3 or 4 of them things. Every time I got a car, I got another one or something. I don't know. Somebody gave them to me. I got a bunch. Put them in the windows. Let it reflect the sun, specifically on the south side. If you can, kind of shade the wall that has your refrigerator too, in order so it doesn't work so hard. And why not? You could put up blankets, sheets, or whatever, anything to cover those windows, because who cares what the neighbors think, right? I don't. Now you can make a room size swamp cooler. I have not tried this, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. It says you open up 2 windows to create a cross breeze. Don't do it north-south. Do it east-west if you can, okay? And wet a sheet or something like that, shirt, anything, and hang it in front of the window that has the incoming breeze, or the doorway, that has an incoming breeze, so that it cools the air coming in. Now the other one, the other window open creates the cross breeze because it's going through, you know. I would think that the same thing would work in a car or a van on the same principle, assuming you couldn't turn on the air conditioning in your car or whatever, or you're saving gas. So you could also, in order to do a room size thingy, and I would suggest you close off all doors and all windows except the room that you're in. Put a box fan on the floor if you've got electricity, with a bowl of water or an ice in front of it. And then on the opposite window, if you've got electricity, you put a smaller fan and face it out so that it's drawing the hot air out of the room that you're in. But, you know, close off everything that you can that's not contributing to keeping you cool, you know. I've heard of people putting wet sheets over themselves when they're sleeping. I haven't done that. I can only see if I was in a position to not worry about the mattress, because I'd be inclined to believe that the mattress would get wet and soggy city. And I think that the wetness altogether might bother me. But then again, I don't know. I haven't tried it. I think maybe one time I would try it just to see how it works, you know. No, when I was a kid, and I lived in the projects in New York City, the adults would turn on the fire hydrants for us kids to run through and play to cool off. They would use a coffee can, you know, the big Maxwell House coffee cans, to direct the water at us, you know, and we'd kind of like play dodgeball with the water, trying to outrun it or whatever, get knocked over, but we'd be laughing a lot. Now the fire department does this in the cities, as far as I can tell. I remember one incident where a man in a convertible, you know where this is going, right? Decided to get out of his car and holler at us kids, because I was a kid at the time, for having the fire hydrant open. When he was finished yelling, he got back in his car and started to drive past the hydrant. He should have gone past first, you know. And the adults grabbed the coffee can and direct the water into his car. We ran. But looking behind me, I could see the water spilling over the top of the doors of his convertible. I don't... Poor soul. Anyway, so the same applies. Get in the water. You know, fill a tub with water and get into it every now and then. Don't run cold showers. It's a waste of water. And what if you've got your water is hooked to an electric water pump or something? Fill up the tub when you can. But don't put in cold water, because cold water can kill you with the shock. I mean, if your body is overheated and you get into cold water, you can have a heart attack really easily. Doesn't matter how young you are either. So the objective is not to cool down too fast, but to cool your core down. So get in every now and then when you feel like yourself getting hot, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. I've got some personal cooling devices. We all know about this one. You can put cold water in that and it will cool you down if you don't have any ice. Or you can put ice in this and it stays cool for a very long time. You put it up against wherever it is that's hot, you know. On the back of your neck, whatever. Works really good. Or you can stick it in the bed with you if you're going to go to bed, you know, and it's hot, whatever. Or you can put it on the sheets and cool down your bed before you go to bed. As you know, I live in an RV, so I don't really have any space in my freezer for ice cubes. So what I do is I take a couple of Ziploc bags and I put about a cup of water in it, and I stick it flat on a piece of cardboard in the refrigerator. It takes up that much space, and I can have ice. So I put ice and things like that. You could also put a wet bandana around your neck. You know, kind of fold it so you get the V shape, and the V goes down the back of your neck and keeps the back of your neck cool. and the rest also. And of course, you can just keep dampening it up, you know. Actually, that's what they were originally made for, those bandanas. Another good one is to put a cold compress on your wrist or at your temples or the crooks of your elbow, behind your knees. The thing is it doesn't have to be ice cold, just colder than you are, and so that you feel the difference, you know. And of course, there's, like the swamp cooler, there's evaporation. So a good spritzer bottle is good to just kind of cool yourself off. I have some Rowley cooling devices, which I really hadn't thought about. I really hadn't even thought much about Rowley succumbing to the heat at all until I saw a few YouTube people's videos talking about their dogs collapsing or their cats getting overheated. And I said, oh my gosh, yes, when I was at the Women's Caravan at the beginning of May, June, and I almost collapsed from heat exhaustion. And someone said to me, the woman said to me, well, what about your dog? And I gave him some water. It had never occurred to me. I don't know why. I just wasn't thinking of Rowley as a people, you know, that he could be affected too. So think about that. I mean, you know, I decided if that condition happens again, for instance, this condition here in the house with no electricity and it's getting hotter and hotter by the minute, but it's hotter outside than inside, I'd put a wet towel on the ground for him on the floor. Actually, I have those great big under the bed sweater plastic thingies that you store sweaters under the bed, and I've got a couple of empty ones. I put a damp paper towel. I put a damp towel on the floor inside of that container for him to lay on if he wanted to. I do wipe him down and I pour water over him every now and then. I don't know if he likes a spray bottle or not. I haven't tried to spray him. I do carry water for him. And this particular toy, this particular water bottle, I strap it around my waist and keep going. What's nice about this one is that I could drink out of the top here. So it's like carrying a water bottle for two. And for Rowley, this piece comes open and flips inside out so that you have this bottle. So you open the end and the water goes in there for him. And when he's finished, you know, you just close it back. And there's enough water in here for both of us for a relatively short trip. I think this holds 2 or 3 cups of water. I'm not sure. I usually just fill it up, you know. Who measures it? But anyway, the weather here has been crazy. Now, I expect it to be hot, living halfway between the Mojave and Death Valley. But this is really, really, really crazy weather. I mean, I can't imagine what I'd do on BLM land if I were in the desert and unable to move to cooler climates. There are people who are living in the desert here who do not move. They stay in the same place year after year. And they are on BLM land. And as far as I could tell, they have no means of moving their rigs. Are they homeless or are they nomads? You know, how could you be homeless if you have an RV and you're living in it, you know? Well, like me, am I homeless or am I a nomad? I don't feel homeless. I do feel nomadish, though. To tell you the truth, I think I would probably, under those circumstances, I would probably visit Walmart or the library or some place similar, public place with air conditioning, drugstore, who knows. I know that some of the people who live out in the desert I have met, and they have solar power. Maybe enough to go for a fan, maybe enough to go for an air conditioner. I don't know. I also probably check local social services for cool rooms, cool accommodations. Even if I were living in a city and the electricity went out like it did here, if it went out for too long, um, I'd probably go over to the clubhouse, because I believe that the clubhouse is on an independent system and it's always cool. I'd also ask my neighbors what they do. If I were out on BLM land, I don't, I'd have to find out what they do, make contingency plans, that kind of thing. Have you thought about it though? What you would do if you were stuck in this position? If you were, would you get up and move? If you could, would you get up and move to a cooler place? And what have you prepared for your fur baby? Have you thought about it? Be a good time. So anyway, thanks for watching and subscribing, and thanks to those who bought us a treat. If you'd like to help us get on the road, see the links below. Please share my video and subscribe to Adventures with Raven and Rowley. This is a really new channel. I could use your help to reach 1,000 subscribers. Also, if you would, please ring the notification bell and click the like button. And because ringing the bell and subscribing is like waving at the YouTube algorithm to get its attention. And your help is appreciated. See you next Friday at 5 p.m. Stay safe. Take care of you and yours, and blessed be.